connecting our lives to help us survive, so we spend our time to the
Hi, welcome to Dementia Action Alliance. My name is Laurie, and today I have the joy of interviewing three people, three lovely ladies who are living young with dementia. First off, Yoli, tell us about yourself. Where do you live, and what type of dementia do you have?
I live in Aubrey, Texas, and I was diagnosed with FTD in 2020.
Okay, and how old were you when you received that diagnosis?
I was 1 month away from my 40th birthday. I'm 43 years old now, but I was 1 month away from my 40th birthday.
Thank you. And Monica, where do you live, and what's your diagnosis?
I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and I have mild cognitive impairment with moderate memory loss. And I was diagnosed 8 years ago, and I was 46 at the time.
Thank you. And Julie?
I live in Southern California near Disneyland, and I am 54 years old, and I was diagnosed about 5 months ago. And I have mild cognitive impairment with Alzheimer's pathology.
Thank you for sharing that. And okay, I want to go to another question. Did you have any contributing factors to your dementia, like family history or anything that you think or the doctors have told you may have contributed to your dementia at such a young age? And Monica, this time I'll start with you.
My mother has frontotemporal dementia, and my father had MCI, mild cognitive impairment, as well, and they thought he had they were going to be doing some testing for Parkinson's, and but he passed before they could do the testing. And also had some childhood trauma, and I've read that could possibly contribute to dementia later in life.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Let's see. Julie, let's go to you.
Yeah, I've got several contributing factors. Both of my parents died of Alzheimer's, and my mother's grandmother had dementia in the 70s, and my father's father had some mild dementia in the 70s, but it was never diagnosed as anything other than being old. Mm-hmm. And I've had 2 concussions, and I've had epilepsy my entire life that's been very well controlled, but it still exists. And I've also had some trauma from a relationship when I was in high school.
Thank you for sharing all that. And Yoli, what about you?
I had an abusive marriage, prior abusive marriage, just to be clear, that gave me several concussions. And then I also have a family history of dementia. My mom was diagnosed with FTD, and later they changed the diagnosis to Lewy body with Parkinson's. And personally, for me, I'm in the middle. I'm in limbo between neurologists to see what's going on with me, because I don't know what's going on with me right now. I feel stuck between diagnoses right now. So
I know a lot of people feel that way. We have a new branch right now of people getting 3, 4, and 5 different diagnoses. So yeah, that's you. Yeah, join the club.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. All right, now each of you have children, and I want to say I really appreciate y'all being so frank and open and honest and sharing your story. It's important that we share our stories so we can help other people, as we all know, and I appreciate your willingness to do that. Y'all have children. How has a young diagnosis impacted your children and your family life?
It hit two ways because my mom had a very traumatic and dramatic version of Alzheimer's. And my dad was diagnosed when she was 2, and my mom was diagnosed just after that. And so she's been raised with it. She's been raised with the memory loss. She's been raised with, my dad mainly had diminishing capacity. My mom had a lot of the dementia and the behaviors, and she was a wild ride. So my first dealings with the Alzheimer's Association were calling to find a kind way to explain to a toddler that we can't open the door for grandma because she's not always a safe person. And so it dramatically impacted things, as did the fact that she's grown up seeing me taking care of my parents as they were getting older, as it did sometimes you had to do things because grandma or grandpa, who were in separate states, needed you. So we'd be on the trip for one, or as I said, my mom was across town. In terms of now, it's a matter of there's landmarks that I might not be here for. And there's always kind of the notion of the family home of like, we can keep your stuff until you get really settled in life, because she just graduated from college. She's starting her new job. She's branching out and starting. But like, I kept stuff at my mom's house for a couple of years in terms of like the photo albums and the books and the stuff that was when you really got settled, you claimed your stuff. I might need to be in assisted living before she would be able to be that established. And so there's just some differences with that. And then there's also some grace that's required and some responsibility that's required in terms of, if I don't call you back, I forgot. It's not that I don't love you. It's not that I'm not thinking of you. I forgot. And there's things that I can't do without help. And there's things that I can't do because it's too much.
You know, like Julie says, you know, sometimes I forget to do stuff. You know, my son will call me out on that, and I tell him all the time. It's like, you know what, honey? He'll tell me all the time. He's like, Mom, he's like, you know what? You promised that you would do this. And I'm like, you know what, honey? I'm like, it's not that I'm not wanting to do this. I forget that I forget. I'm not wanting to back down on my promise. I truly, truly forget. And I tell him all the time, it's hard for me to keep up with my responsibilities at times. And he sees that I struggle even with my emotions. He sees that all the time. It's very difficult for me to keep up with everything. I have a hard time keeping up with bills. My husband had to take over a bit with my son. He sees me struggling just day-to-day things. I have to ask him. It's like, I used to be the parent. Now he has to be the one to help me with daily tasks. Like, hey, Mom, you know what? You have to take your medicine. Or, Mom, you know, did you do this? Did you do that? Or, here, let me help you cook something small, something so basic. And he is now a caregiver to me. And the role has now reversed, and it's a very different world now. The roles have changed, and it's a big adjustment, very big adjustment, because it's not something that I thought would happen at such a young age. I didn't think it would happen.
It's certainly is challenging. My son is 19, so we went through the period of trying to teach him how to drive, and you know, I struggle with driving myself. You know, I'm trying to teach him how to parallel park, and these things are a challenge for me. But he definitely gives me grace. He's very understanding. He's patient. With something like that, we just pulled up a YouTube video and went by what they told us to do. You know, it's applying for college was incredibly hard. It's a lot of paperwork, a lot of reading, trying to understand and stuff. Just so much harder than it would have been, you know, had it been maybe 10 years ago, you know. But I feel like he always really gives me grace. He's very understanding. My mother has lived with us for about 4 years, so he sees what it looks like a little later on down the road. But yeah, he's today he came home and I was just sitting in the middle of the kitchen floor and he could tell that, I was kind of having a moment there. And so finally I told him I was hearing noises in the garage and I wasn't sure if I was really hearing something for real or if it was just, you know, if it was reality or not. And then when I was certain that I was really hearing something, then I wasn't sure if it was him or someone else. And he was like, "Well, Mama, you just sitting there. You should at least grab the knife or something." And so I was like, "You're right. You're right." But he's very patient. He doesn't make me feel awkward or weird or, embarrassed by me or anything. So I like the support in our
Oh.
relationship. In fact, afterwards, I said, "Come give me a hug."
What are your challenges due to your age? I mean, we all have problems with dementia. We all have challenges, but do you find anything specifically because of your age that is a challenge?
No one believes you when you tell them you have dementia.
Yeah, they sometimes argue and try to talk you out of it.
Yeah.
And I got slammed with, it's just menopause. Go back again. Find out.
Yes.
It's not just menopause.
I always, when I say, "Oh, I have dementia," they think I'm joking and they say, "Me too." And I'm like, I'm not kidding.
Just loss of income, at this age, we should still be working and kind of, contributing, trying to prepare for retirement. And that's a really big concern that I have.
I agree on that one. Anybody else facing that? The lack
Oh,
of
yeah.
income? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
retired from my primary position this spring because it just became too much. And it's also just kind of a mind warp for me because I'm 8 years younger than when my mom was diagnosed because she was also early onset. And I'm 25 years younger than when my dad was diagnosed. So even though I kind of saw the writing on the wall that it was my family fate, I thought I'd be in my late 60s.
Mm.
And I'm not. um, but it's having people not believe you, having people diminish what you're saying and say that it can't possibly be that way, or else it goes the other extreme where they're just so sorry for you. And it's like, but I'm still alive. And
Yes.
even some of the agencies that I've worked with, I have to look at them and say, I'm not ready for adult daycare. I'm not ready for programming. I'm not ready to move into the assisted living or the memory care yet. I'm looking at them so that I can have a plan, but I'm not done yet. And I seem to get the two extremes of either you're perfectly fine, get over it, or life is over, get used to it.
When I was diagnosed, I think I had just as much of an issue with the doctor and the way the doctor treated me. Because he literally treated me like this was such a shock. I was the only person in the world under 65 who had dementia, which, caused issues because I thought, how am I ever going to find somebody to talk to? Well, then, of course, I found Dementia Action Alliance and life changed. But how did the doctor treat you when he or she gave you the diagnosis?
My neurologist was my mom's neurologist. And so after I'd had a concussion previously, she was pushing for the spinal tap. So her answer was, I'm sorry to tell you, but yes, there's Alzheimer's pathology. And we really knew this was coming, right? So she just kind of dropped a bucket on me and didn't have a whole lot of empathy. But at the same time, I'm glad that she was as perseverant and pushy as she was because she did see the signs and she did know that it was coming. And while I have mixed feelings about, I'm glad that I wasn't diagnosed 10 years ago, even if there were some signs of something possibly lingering because I've had that normal block of life. I'm glad that I got a clear diagnosis now because my lifestyle is fairly healthy and I am doing what I can for it. And there have been enough benchmarks in enough places that I have a fairly high confidence in the diagnosis because I know a lot of people that their diagnosis is just, it seems like you're throwing whatever at the wall sticks. And I do seem to have more of my pieces lined up.
I can remember going to a memory center being tested. I can remember going back to get the results, but I don't remember anything else. But then the neurologist that referred me to the memory center, he never brought it up when I would go to see him for my headaches. And so I kept waiting on him to bring it up. So eventually I brought it up one day, and he just shrugged his shoulders and, went on to talk about something else. So I figured it was probably just no big deal until, a little bit later on when I began to do my own research.
And now, how do people react? Now, Yoli, you talked a little bit about how people look at you, and you did too, Julie. But do you hear things like, there's no way the doctor made a mistake, other than Julie, you said that they told you it was menopause. But Monica and Yoli, do you hear that also? Do you hear people saying you can't have dementia?
People in the medical field, like, for example, my primary care physician said, well, I don't think you have dementia because you use high level words.
Mm-hmm.
I've had other doctors question it, and they're like, who told you you had dementia? I'm like, my neurologist. They're like, why would you question this? I'm like, I am not making this up.
Well, I think because some of them think that dementia, it only looks like the end stage.
Yeah.
Because my primary care physician said, well, when I'm talking with someone that has dementia, I can pretty much tell right away that there is no way he can talk to Julia and tell right away that she has dementia. There's no way. Most of the people that are in our group, you can't tell right away.
I will be honest. I used my idea of dementia long ago. If you had asked me 10 years ago what dementia was, I would have told you this is what dementia is. And it's, you don't know, you forget everything, and you don't know what time, what year it is, what day it is, and you don't know anything. But now I can tell you, you know what, you live a full life. You know what, you may not know exactly what day it is, but you know what month it is for the most part. And you live a full life. You do live a full life. I mean, my mother-in-law, she may get confused from time to time. She has dementia, but she lives a full life, and she may get confused, but she knows who she is, and she has a full life just like I do. And she's happy. I'm happy. I see all the three of you, y'all are happy. And we are all living a beautiful life. And we're, everybody at DAA, we are all living a full life.
Yeah, there's parts of the life. Like, I went on a bike ride this morning, and we've got a rescue dog in the house right now that I'm going to be taking to an event this week. And I still clean, and I still go to the beach with friends, and I still, watch movies. And you have a full life. You still go to the grocery store. You still, I've gotten to the point where I don't turn the oven on without somebody in the house, but you still do things. You still move on.
Yeah.
And advocacy is another part of that, because things need to change. Awareness needs to come. And some things need to be, some of the things that happen in life, you need to remove the obstructions from. And we've done a really good job with special ed and education recently, and it needs to apply to the rest of the population that needs it.
Definitely.
Thank you, ladies, for sharing all your points. And this has been a wonderful podcast, and I hope it's going to help a lot of people. So thank you for your time and for being here today. And we'll catch you all around somewhere.
We're living beyond dementia, connecting seeing our lives to help us survive, so we spend our time to the fullest we can. We're seeing our lives have purpose, engaging our days